Good afternoon. I want to thank everybody for joining us. My name is Olga Atamanova, and Ukraine Media Center Ukraine Forum starts its operation today. It's year 9 of the war, and today is day 264 of the full-scale invasion of the Russian aggressor in our land. And now we will be talking about a very important topic. 21st of November, we will all celebrate the 9th anniversary of the Dignity Revolution. So today we will talk about the way it will be happening during the war and what we will be talking about during the day, what events will take place. I want to introduce you our guest today. It's Kateryna Chuieva, Deputy Minister of Culture and Information Policy, Maksym Iarmystyi, Acting Head of the Ukrainian Institute of National Remembrance, Hanna Demydenko, Head of the Expert Group for Interaction with Public Associations and Development of the Veteran Movement of the Directorate for Public Identity, and Ihor Poshyvailo, Director General at the National Memorial Complex of the Heroes of the Heavenly Hundred, Museum of the Revolution of Dignity. Good afternoon. Ms. Kateryna, let's start with you. So what will be happening on that day? Good afternoon, dear friends. Thank you for giving us this opportunity to tell us this very important program. Honestly, I'm sometimes still have this honor of joining my colleagues during different events related to Maidan Revolution, the situation with the museum. I still can't believe it all happened, because it seems sometimes that just recently we were walking around gathering the exponents for the museum, gathering the initiative group, which gathered in January and February of 2014, when the Maidan Museum initiative just emerged, and we merged with other civil initiatives, and this synergy led to the creation of this institution, which received the status of national institution and currently is one of the key institutions in Ukraine related to the preserving the memories of Maidan and creation of the future of our country, as the museum was conceived as the laboratory of civil practices, the best practices we would like to see in our country. And I'm very humbled that even notwithstanding the war, notwithstanding this difficult situation we all find ourselves in, many of our colleagues are currently in the armed forces, and many of them are maybe in Ukraine, but not at their homes due to the temporary occupation of those temporaries, or as they had to go abroad. The life and work can continue, everything's going on. The values that we now recognize during the Maidan events are still living today. They are formative for us. They influence the people, the institutions. They create our agenda, our reaction, our proactive position in situations with the challenges that war makes us face. And now that I can make this introduction to the program of the military time of the museum, not only museum, but all the partners who are involved in anything related to Maidan, those who continued doing it, everything who got themselves united to have these values and this important date to still be preserved on the agenda. My colleagues will tell you in more detail about the program, but I'm humbled that now that everything that we had to do during peacetime, we still preserve the full range of these events, of these affairs we're doing, and we preserve the desire to do it, and it tells a lot, in my opinion. We see the public discussions, we have scientific forum, we have exhibition project. It's something, the force of some kind of force of spirit that I don't even know if we should take it for granted, but it seems natural for Ukrainians. Sometimes if you look from a different vantage point, it's infatuating because the situation is difficult in the country, and we understand that we will mitigate the consequences of this war for years to come, but we're at the beginning of some great challenges that were brought by the war. But this joining force It's something that gives us, makes us find some force inside of us to keep on fighting. And I love that event that the colleagues offered, that the Maidan was the first battle we won in that war. We've seen the history of all hundreds of years before. We understood that that battle had to take place. Sometimes we were understanding what it was going to. But it would be a lot worse if it would fall on the lives of our children. So it's my honor to work with everybody who works by my side. Mr. Maksym, the fight for our freedom is still going on. There is war going on in the country, but obviously we don't have a right to discount ourselves. We still have to remember the names of the heroes who gave their lives for our freedom, for our independence. So what will be the events this year? Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. I would like to say that the Day of Dignity and Freedom is indeed one of the most important events in the history of Ukraine, of the country, because this event changed dramatically our vision of our understanding of our civilizational choice. And the society demonstrated that the European choice, the choice of European values, the issue of our liberty is the key issue in our everyday life. In terms of our choice being important not only for us, but for the generations to come. And as we witnessed the Russian aggression, specifically Russian Federation's hunting Ukrainian history, invading territory of Ukraine, wishing within few days, just 3 days, to capture the capital. They just didn't take into account one single thing, this internal feeling of freedom, the choice of our citizens, that it's something that became the key point on the way to the implementation of the concepts of the enemy. It didn't happen in one moment. It was a process which fundamentals were laid during the Orange Revolution, or Revolution on Grenade, then the Orange Revolution, and the Revolution of Dignity. And I'm very happy that we have an institution in our country which preserves its memory, which develops it, organizes different events, showing not only in Ukraine, but in international arena as well, our spirit, our freedom, our dignity. And in this context, going back to the events, I would like to draw your attention to the institutional capability of our museum. In fact, we did a great job in cooperation with the museum and ministry in implementation of different projects, for example, the construction project and other projects that were started for every citizen or any guest of the capital to be able to see all these materials, archives, and everything related. But you were right, we cannot give ourselves a discount for this war. We try to the maximum extent to stand our ground in terms of reconstruction idea, understanding the complicated situation. We will get everyone involved to the maximum extent, specifically the government authorities. As soon as we have this opportunity, we will renew all the projects. We have a plan for renewal of the country, where us, together with the ministry, we envisaged such items as completion of all the Museum of Dignity projects. That's why this day we would like to wish our colleagues their resilience and to thank them for the job done. And in detail as to the list of events planned during these weeks, I would like our colleagues to tell more about this. So, dear colleagues, please, Hanna or Ihor, who will tell more about the program. Yeah, let's proceed to the events many further on. And me, as a representative of the Ministry of Veterans, that Maidan was the first battle we won. It was the event that helped us raise to show what is Ukrainian identity, what our people can, what is important for us. Not so long ago, we also had an event where we had a discussion that the issue was raised, what's the difference from Russians? Many years they were saying that we are brothers, we are neighbors, and almost everybody mentioned values. It's all about values and freedom. It's our important values. And even no matter the fact that the battles are still going on, no matter the complications, we have to keep on living, keep on moving on. We have to build the platform for when the victory will come, we will have something to show, something to say. Because back in USSR, they were destroying the history, with not showing the events that really happened. Many things, our historic memory was destroyed, and it's important for us to support all the initiatives, all the events, and to work so that the next generations don't feel ashamed and they know the truth. I also want to mention that many veterans and many participants of the war, they all came from Maidan. Many of them came from Maidan. Many of them perished already. Our losses are horrible, but even notwithstanding this fact, we know that our guys will come back and they create history. Now it's a complicated time. It's time of changes. We build a new history. So thank you for all the events, for your initiatives. Ministry always gets involved. We wait for our defenders to come back home. We want to keep creating, and we want to have everybody memorize these events together. Mr. Ihor, please. Good afternoon. Indeed, the celebration of dignity and freedom this year is the ninth year, and unfortunately we celebrated during the war. And there is a lot of true statements about the fact that this today's war is a large-scale Maidan, even in the regions that we were understanding back in 2013-14. We were understanding what Maidan was standing for, what were the values it protected, and what it was all about. In fact, this situation united Ukraine, and the values of dignity and freedom and democracy that should be written with a capital letter, I guess they should be protected by our defenders in the front lines and by all the other Ukrainians in the rear, in the culture front. And this celebration going on under the war condition, large-scale aggression of the Russian Federation. We have certain nuances, but the program in general is laconic, it's concise, and it takes into account the new realities, the air raid alerts, and many traditional participants who traditionally participate in celebrations. They are defenders of Ukrainian sovereignty in the front lines. So the participants of Maidan Revolution, who were the first to defend Ukraine in the east, the key motto of this year's celebration, like Kateryna announced, that Maidan is the first won battle of this war. You see this motto on the screen. It's a social campaign. It's concise. It has this design of a street campaign. We stood the ground in Maidan. We will win the war. The Ministry of Information Policy creates the promotional video that will be available. That will be available in the TV from the 1st of November. And traditionally, our museum encourages Ukrainians for Ukrainians to maintain their dignity that was established 9 years ago, to share their emotions, their memories, and maybe in the newly created context. We will start our program formally on the 15th of November. So today is a press conference. I want to emphasize something important, that we don't formalize the celebration only for these days. We encouraged everybody from the very first years. We have to make the task set by Maidan closer, bring them closer. We have to think about our heroes, about the values and the passionate energy expressed by Ukrainian people during Maidan revolution 9 years ago, and even earlier in Orange Maidan, and in 1990 during the revolution in Granite, which tasks were the activity of the people. Activity is citizens' activity. It should be a working process, not only during those days, but all years long. So on the 15th of November, we established the public discussion, Maidan, war, freedom, revolution of civil resistance. It's a very important opportunity for us to realize the processes going on around us. Very interesting participants of the discussions that we will have. It will be Alexander Alferov, historian, radio anchor, Hanna Demydenko, present here, Yana Zinkevich, the commander of Hospitaliers Medical Battalion, Alexander Muzichko. From Odessa, Vasil Pavlov. From the Ministry of Defense, Andriy Seluk, active participant of Revolutionary Dignity and coordinator of Lviv Volunteer Association, Alina Shpak, first deputy of the head of Secretariat for Protection of State Language. On 16th of November, we will open the exhibition in a new, recently opened, opened gallery, opened just 1 year ago in the Lipska Street. The exhibition of Alexei Bolisenko art, the Diary of Extremists. It's very interesting artist, famous in artist community. His works were demonstrated in 30 countries throughout the world. Born in Kazakhstan, participant of Maidan Revolution, and friend of Matvey Weisberg, whose creation, The War, inspired the transformation of his photo footages in transformation into a unique collection. So on 16th of November, the Gallery of Protest Art of Maidan, Lavarska Street. 16th, 17th of November, Museum of Maidan will organize the scientific forum, the 4th scientific forum this year. Maidan and Russian-Ukrainian war in national and international dimension. A scientific forum established by our museum is kind of a challenge, because the first years after the Maidan, we've seen the lack of systematic research of the events of Maidan, because the social research showed that the memory fades about Maidan, and even the sympathics of Maidan sometimes confuse the events, the sequence of events, and the regular average citizens usually cannot appreciate the importance, the historic importance of Maidan, not only for Ukraine, but for them, for their specific regions. And that's why we established this scientific forum, even notwithstanding the absence and the great distance. But this forum united the citizens from Ukraine and other prestige universities, scientific institutes, think tanks around the world. It will take 2 days this year. We will present the scientific collection of research of the second scientific forum, the focus of which was Maidan in the context of world protest movements of end of the 20th, beginning of 21st century, because our experience of the peaceful protests of Ukrainians is being researched by our friends around the world, specifically in Hong Kong. Iran recently joined this community. Ukraine is unique in this understanding, and we can, figuratively speaking, to export this positive social experience, this citizens' activity, civil activity, and our capacity of actively self-organizing horizontally to build this infrastructure of the peaceful protest and achieve our goal. Also, there will be a presentation of Museum of Maidan photo collection. The important event in the 17th of November will be the discussion of the research of the events in Maidan under war condition. It was offered by the representatives of the civil society, of the government authority. While creating the program, we actively discussed with our potential partners and participants. This program, it's not exhaustive, it's not comprehensive. We understand that in Kyiv and in other regions, many different events are about to happen. And our mission was to propose a consolidated basic program. And this discussion is important because we understand that 9 years after Maidan, the most resonating, most important issue is the justice, and there is the demand from the society which is still effective until today. The war does not relieve us for the task of completion of this justice as to the bringing justifiable award by the court. So this is why the discussion of the Maidan is very important, and we had prosecutor's office and State Bureau of Investigation. They responded to this challenge of both Roman Leshko, who is the head of the department related to the crimes committed during mass protests, and Alexei Sishko, deputy prosecutor, and the director of the Department of Pre-Court Investigation and Support of the Civil Investigation, Alexander Timoshenko, who was wounded in Maidan, and the head of Indomitable Maidan, the representatives of lawyers groups, the representatives of the Heavenly 100 families. So this 17th November 1400 event in the Ukraine Crisis Center is very important. 19th and 26th of November are Saturdays. Our museum invites everybody to the center of the Kyiv for the excursions of the Maidan. Throughout Maidan events, we will talk about the revolution of dignity in the modern context. And 27th of November is most important day when the attention of the society is drawn to the beginning of two revolutions, Orange Revolution and the Revolution of Dignity. It's Monday, working day. It's when Russia's traditionally commit massive strikes on the Ukrainian territories. So we called to the maximum safety measures compliance, and the alley of the 70 of the Heavenly 100 will hold a mass prayer for the heroes of the Heavenly 100, laying flowers to the memorial complex, interconfessional prayer, and at 12 o'clock, the Museum of Revolution of Dignity with a number of partners from the Ministry of Culture, Institute of National Memory, State Gallery Lavra, the program for protection of cultural heritage, the stuff for the preservation of dignity. Will organize the exhibition project, which will tell more about how Ukraine protects the culture heritage as one of the key goals, key targets of Russian aggression, how Ukrainian culture feels solidarized inside, and how the whole world tries to help Ukraine protect our cultural heritage. What are the prospects of rebuilding the destroyed cultural heritage objects? And this exhibition is about the cultural values protected by Ukraine and the whole world. The exhibition is being open, will be open at 12 o'clock with a short briefing with the participation of Minister of Culture and other representatives of the organizers of the exhibition. And at 13 and 18 o'clock, we will be excursions held by curators. So the Gallery of Arts Lavra near the territory of Kyiv-Pechersk National Heritage Site. Also, under this exhibition project, we invite for a panel discussion 3 peaceful revolutions, formative for the defense, protection, in the capability in the war, with the participants which represent 3 generations. Oles Dani will be the moderator, so it will be an attempt to wrap our heads around the weight of this fight for freedom and values starting from 1990. And at 17 o'clock, it will be evening time. In the alley of the Heavenly Hundred, we will have the traditional flowers laying. And after that, we invite the Kyivites and the guests of the city, everybody who wants to honor the memory of the Heavenly Hundred, to proceed to the Grushevsky Street, to the memorial complex, to honor the memory at around 1800. We will light up the lampades and lay flowers in Mikhailivska Square. Many participants of the revolution, not only revolution of dignity, but also the revolution on granite, perished during the Russian-Ukrainian war, starting from 2014. And in the center of the Kyiv, of the city, there is a unique exhibition project from the Museum of Revolution of Dignity is taking place. It's a graphic novel by Alexander Komyakov, famous Ukrainian graphist, artist. It's created in a simple form of graphic pictures, but based on the documentary evidences, the work with the archives. So we invite everybody to take a look at this exhibition. The Museum of Revolution of Dignity provides methodic materials, not only information about the Revolution of Dignity, but in the context of the modern, in modern format. It's videos that can be which can be downloaded. It can be used for work in different levels in schools, other educational institutions. So these videos are posted on our website. You can see them on the social media. So that's the program in brief. Some amendments are possible. So please double check with our website, with our web pages in the social media, and we invite everybody to participate in all these events. It's not just a formality or the honor paid to historic events. In fact, Maidans are still going on. Is the opportunity to honor the memory of those passionaries who perished, our non-average citizens who took this civil burden, this civil responsibility, social responsibility for the future of the country, who went to the hottest parts of our land, who are still there, many of whom already perished, unfortunately. And it's the opportunity for us to feel this energy of solidarity of this joint force, the responsibility for the future of our country. So we invite everybody, because indeed Maidan was our first battle won. We won a number of battles already, but the war still requires our consolidation, further joining our resources, people's resources, financial resources. And we say that in reality, such historic dates, they help us mobilize our historic memory, more obviously understand the reasons, the causes, and to realize our historic lessons, to become more resilient, to become stronger, and to be more victorious on a number of fronts that Ukraine is having a war on, protecting its independence. Thank you, Mr. Ihor. Thank you, dear colleagues. If you have any questions, can you please ask them? Svetlana Tkachuk, Ukrinform, good afternoon. You said comprehensively about the program. I would like just to double check if there are any meetings envisaged specifically with the participants of Maidan, or maybe participants of different Maidans, like starting from 2004 and further on in 13-14. That's why, because you introduced the scientific analysis of these historic events, but maybe there may be some reevaluation by the participants themselves. And another question, will you add to the context of events the number of works related to the stuff of preservation of heritage? There will be 2 events, 2 opportunities where we invite everybody to meet the participants of Maidan. It will be an online public discussion. It's not a scientific review, but it's a representation of different visions. The discussion, Maidan, War for Freedom, the evolution of public resistance, on 15th of November. So we invite everybody to get involved, not only the news anchors, we invite everybody who can take place or represent their own experience. And on the 21st of November at 1400, this panel discussion with the subject 3 peaceful revolutions that Oles Denis will moderate. So this is the formative, something formative for the defense capabilities in the war, or about how we defend, how we protect our achievements, our values, the achievements of our peaceful resistance. So these are at minimum 2 opportunities, 15th November online and 21st November live. We invite everybody who wants to participate. Lavra Gallery, 15 o'clock. So the exhibition about the activity of the staff for preservation of heritage, which was created as a reaction to the crisis which erupted from the large-scale aggression of the Russian Federation, that with the support of the Ministry of Culture on the platform of the civil group for reaction and for protection of the cultural heritage during full-scale aggression. So the activity of the headquarters itself will be represented here, and the aid provided by the international organizations, international donors, the Fund of Prince Claus, for example, who provided their aid to the cultural institutions during the first days and keep on providing it until today with the protective equipment, who help us digitalize our heritage, digitalize our mobile collections, who help us in expeditions for documenting the losses and damage of the objects of cultural heritage, supported by who help the Ministry of Culture and prioritize the tasks for rebuilding and get themselves prepared for stabilization measures. And there are some positive moments, and Ministry of Culture was talking about this many times, and it's a diligent and complicated work, which is obvious, which is not obvious for many Ukrainians, because it's a very prolonged process, specifically in democratic world, where the decisions are being taken not sporadically but based on the specific evidences, some coordination councils, discussions. But I think that there are massive positive movements, and we will tell about them during our exhibition event. Friends, any more questions left? No more questions. There's something to add still. Oh, I would just like to add a little bit now that Ihor passed the mic to me. Thank you. I would want to separately thank for this initiative of this exhibition, because indeed we have to understand that even the state resources are not indefinite. The people who work there also have families, problems, challenges now faced by them, and that's why usually lately I keep on repeating the thought that it would be impossible, that this resistance or this scale of help would be impossible without support of the civil society. And this is a complicated process because now we're facing these events sometimes as the representatives of the country, sometimes as the representatives of the civil society, which retains its imprint on the way this work is being organized. But this experience of Maidan, for us, for me, it was first of all the Maidan experience when we organized by ourselves without waiting or understanding that there is no time to wait for someone's directions, that we have to organize the processes. It worked, and especially during this full-scale invasion, it was more difficult during 2014 because nobody was ready for the war to begin back then, but we felt it and we were understanding it, but the situation was still difficult. But now that on the 24th of February we all woke up to the sounds of explosions, we understood that time has passed. And I just want to use this opportunity today, and I want to thank everybody who did not say that there was no direction from the government, who just said, we're ready, let's do something. So with the resources, with those efforts by the teams that were there back then, we started acting. And it's an important aspect because the communication was established immediately. We had communication with the colleagues from abroad. We could plan some help. We could ask those people for help, but we had to keep in mind that if the state, Ukraine as a state, would say that no, we don't do anything, there wouldn't be any talks about any international help. So only thanks to the part of those people who represent the state, the government officials who represent Ukraine, they said that they would start fighting. So this teamwork, this cooperation at the level of ministries, of ministers, I think that the main task was the communication back then on the highest levels, on the medium levels. Everybody communicated with everybody they could with during those days, and at the state level it started to move these state programs. Many volunteers assisted in there. They knew how to do it. They could act in a more steady and fast manner. And that's why this experience is permanent. Maybe not all of us wanted to go through experience like that, but what we managed to do would have been impossible without international communication and teamwork in the level of of civil society, these horizontal connections, and become heroes. Many participants of Maidan back then were 8 years younger, and we learned a lot during these years. And I want to thank everybody once again, to everybody thanks to whom these processes are taking place now, and this scale of help is available now, and we have positive experiences after a number of research. I'm sorry, I just didn't know that we would start talking about this. We don't know if there are official press releases as of now, but there are signed memorandums about the conservation and rebuilding of the objects of cultural heritage, and we hope it will give us new opportunities, because we understand that the state itself sometimes has less capabilities due to the catastrophic scale of the damage inflicted by Russian aggression. I want to thank our guests for this conversation, for this meeting. I will remind you, we had Maksym, Kateryna, Chuieva, Ihor, Poshyvailo, and Hanna Demydenko. I want to finalize it with the words of this motto of today's celebration of the Revolution of Dignity Day. We stood our ground at Maidan, we will win the war. Let's believe in our armed forces, work for our victory. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to the heroes.